Thank you for joining us for the latest session in our Tea Time training series. A recording of today's session will be available on the Practice Assistance Centre, which can be found at the website www.the-pac.co.uk. The Practice Assistance Centre, or the PAC for short, is your free online tool to download promotional material as well as gain access to educational support. You'll find our previous Tea Time training sessions within the PAC, which includes a 6-part series on fluid therapy, which has proved very popular. And then 2 weeks ago, we kicked off National Microchip Month with a session on the 4 essentials to successful pet microchipping. As I say, it is free to join, so please make the most of the PAC and the tools it has to offer. If you have any questions at any point today, then please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try and answer these at the end of the session. Finally, just leaves me to introduce our speaker for today. We are very fortunate to be joined by Dr. Shea Beasley. Dr. Beasley is a scientist and is the leader of the lactic acid bacteria research project at VetCare. She has spent the last 20 years focusing on canine lactic acid bacteria strains and their potential for incorporation into canine GI support products. All in all, Dr. Beasley has a lot of experience in the subject for today's session, so we're in safe hands for the next 20 or 30 minutes. So Shea, if it's okay, I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you, James. Hello from Finland as well. As we all agree that the intestine has a huge role on the gastrointestinal well-being. But perhaps what isn't as commonly known is that the gastrointestinal tract has also a lot of influence on other parts of the body as well. Moving on to the next slide, it'll show us that there are 4 main ways how the gastrointestinal microbiota impacts the body. Competitive exclusion was introduced in the early 1970s, showing how good bacteria adhere on the mucous membrane and inhibit harmful bacteria from attaching. Also, bacteria enhance the immune response, protecting the body from harmful bacteria. Also, viruses, as well as has been discussed now with the ongoing coronabacteria epidemic. Lactic acid bacteria act as the last link on feed absorption, and this reflects straight on the animal growth and also vitamin production. In mental development, the gastrointestinal microbiota signal straight through the vagal nerve to the brain, taking part in stress handling, shaping behavior, and also enabling learning. In the next slide, we'll just shortly see what are these microbes doing all this. As we all know, evolution started from microbes, and bacteria during this evolution, bacteria capsulated in their host animals and evolved within fish, mammals, birds, and so on, as the bacteria transfer from their mothers to children. Each generation transfers their unique bacteria onwards. This is how dogs, cats, elephants, and other animals have their unique microbiota today. As this microbiota has been in canine animals for over 10 million years, the dog's immune system, metabolism, and mental development is partially based on their bacteria. In the next slide, you'll see how all healthy individuals have been shown to have bifidobacteria and, even more importantly, lactobacillus throughout their whole gastrointestinal tract. Moving on to how the microbiota, can I have the next, thank you. Moving on to how the microbiota develops in each individual is so that microbiota builds up in time frames. Contact with microbes begin in utero and proceed in a stepwise manner during birth and early infancy. This has been shown in humans, mice, and cows, and is thought to be the case in all mammals. Once an animal is fully weaned and the microbiota is quite stable and will stay so until the immune system starts degenerating. In the next slide, we'll see how important how extremely important it is for the pregnant animals to receive their bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus during pregnancy. As moms transfer these bacteria onto their offspring in a very early stage. Mode of birth has also a crucial role. In C-sections, typically pups receive their second microbial time frame from environment rather than from their moms. And this causes more early age allergies and atopia in the offspring. Also, lactation enhances adhesion of beneficial bacteria. And lactation has been thought to be the only true prebiotic for the probiotic bacteria in the animal. Once the dog is an adult, the microbiota is quite stable. Diet is believed to be number one affecting the microbial diversity, offering different kinds of feed and canine specific lactic acid bacteria. You will enhance the microbial diversity in your pet. Another important factors are animal and human contacts. A study by Song et al. In 2010 demonstrated that adult people receive large amount of their microbial load from their pets rather than from other humans. And for this reason, it is it makes a difference what you feed your pet and what kind of microbiota your pet has. Antimicrobial treatments are a major single cause of alteration of microbiota. It may take up to 3 years to regain the gastrointestinal tract diversity after one antimicrobial treatment. Fecal microbiota transplantation is a growing alternative therapy, also in pets and horses. Fecal matter transplantation may have safety risks and is also laborious to administrate. In the next slide, we'll see what are the differences between certain bacteria on the market for pets. As Lactobacillus as a group, they're typically safe. They're regarded as safe throughout several continents. This is the case in Europe, in USA, and also in Japan. They do not carry typically any antibiotic resistant genes, nor do they produce antimicrobial molecules. Some of Lactobacillus strains have been shown probiotic phenomena, and this is always strain dependent. So if there is a claim bacteria being beneficial for animals or humans, it is always it's a certain strain that will do the work. So not all Lactobacillus are beneficial, not all Lactobacillus fermentum have probiotic characteristics. Enterococcus faecium, on the other hand, are not, the strains on the market are not animal dependent. They are usually isolated from humans. They have been shown to favor adhesion and colonization of certain pathogenic bacteria in the dog intestine. Enterococci are commonly, as a bacterial group, they are commonly multi-drug resistant. And for this reason, they have been shown to be carried by dogs and then reported to spread to the dog owners and causing hospital-associated infections. And this slide is just to show the publications on these studies. In the next slide, you can see the EU-approved complementary feed bacteria for dogs. There are 3 canine origin strains. There's an avian origin Lactobacillus aedophilus that was first for farm animals and then later approved for cats and dogs as well. And then there is the Enterococcus faecium that has been on the market for decades. In the next slide, we'll take a look why Lactobacillus is a natural choice for enhancing a stable gastrointestinal tract. Lactobacillus do not produce antimicrobial substances. They are very typically sensitive to antibiotics, and it is impossible to import foreign DNA into a Lactobacillus. And for these reasons, Lactobacillus is recognized safe throughout the world. Saying all this, in the next slide, I'll show what led to Procani care. In the 1990s, I had a sensitive stomach, a border collie with a very sensitive stomach, and as half of her mates suffered from gastrointestinal disorders as well, we started to look if we could find an alternative to Enterococcus faecium. We compared several types of dogs, and as we can see in the next slide, the dogs with a very frequent gastrointestinal disorders, no lactic acid bacteria could be detected in their feces. The regular type of a dog stomach with occasional gastrointestinal upsets were found with several lactic acid bacteria detectable in their feces, but in very low amounts. And those dogs that had what we call an iron stomach with a very healthy gastrointestinal tract, one dominant Lactobacillus strain was detected in each individual. Out of these Lactobacillus, 3 strains have been chosen for prochronic care. And in the next slide, we'll see the science behind prochronic care. These strains have been tested for safety and efficacy. The strain survive a low pH for several hours, enabling them to survive the gastrointestinal tract alive. And this is a very important phenomena of a probiotic. In the next slide, you'll see how an interesting study on how dogs that had never received any medication, when they were fed dog-derived lactic acid bacteria, what happened in their intestine. These dogs had a very balanced gastrointestinal microbiota, and a balanced microbiota is very stable. It's not very easy to alter it. These dogs were fed dog-derived lactic acid bacteria for 7 days, and throughout this 7-day feeding period, the fed strains could be seen in the intestine. A week after, a sample taken a week after, the strains themselves did not show anymore, but a new bacteria emerged. And this was an indigenous lactic acid bacteria called Lactobacillus acidophilus. And this implies that canine-derived bacteria do alter the canine intestine, enabling the dog's own beneficial bacteria to take space and be stronger. The same phenomena was seen in the mom's pups as well. So we had 2 moms and there altogether 3 pups in the study. Okay. In the next slide, we tested how these lactic acid bacteria, how they work against pathogens. Each of the strains had a unique exclusion mechanism towards canine-derived pathogens. And this is why when you choose a probiotic, is it for yourselves or for your pets, it is always good to go for a product that has several strains in them, since each strain do behave in their own way. Moving on to the next slide, after doing all the safety in vitro after doing all the safety and in vitro efficacy studies, we ran a study on household dogs with sensitive stomachs. The figure on the right shows that on the y-axis there is we're looking at the stool consistency, 5 being solid water with no fecal material, and 1 being a concrete-like hard stool. And what we're looking for a 2.5 between 3 stool in a normal dog. These 60 dogs were fed a probiotic product or a placebo, the probiotic being the lower line and the placebo being the dotted line. In the probiotic group, the stool consistency became normal in 1 day and remained so for the first 4 days before the placebo group regained the same situation. We studied these dogs for 6 months. It's just the first month showing here because it would be a boring long line. And during these 6 months, in the probiotic group, no relapses were shown, but there were few. There were a lot of diuretic relapses in the placebo group, and also few vomiting dogs in the placebo group, which weren't seen in the probiotic group. Also, we could see in the probiotic group that the amount of certain pathogens, such as alpha toxin producing Clostridium perfringens and Enterococcus faecium's mounts became lower, significantly lower. Then moving on to the technical part of ProCanicare. So in the next slides, we can show that ProCanicare offers a balancing phenomena for the microbes in the intestine. The strains modify the intestinal microbiota towards a healthy gut microbiota. Also, these canine-derived strains, they enable the dog's own functional microbes to become more stronger in the gut. The strains also normalize the stool consistency and decrease the pathogens in the feces. Where ProCanicare helps is obviously after each antibiotic treatment, changes in diet, traveling, dog shows, pregnancy and lactation, as we discussed already, and of course the gastrointestinal disorders. It is easy to use. You can mix it with your dog, with the dog food, or even water. We've done studies in 7-day periods and also as 30-day testing, and for this reason we recommend at least a 7-day dosing before traveling dog shows and changes in diet, whereas at least a 30-day application is needed after antibiotic treatment, pregnancy and lactation, and gastrointestinal upsets. Also, if your dog needs to be on a probiotic continuously, it has been shown to be safe. And I believe the next slide would be yours, James.
It is. So thank you, Shea. Really appreciate that. I think you raised some very interesting points, and no doubt this may have prompted a few questions with our audience today. So if you do have any questions, then please submit these by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We'll take a look at those in a couple of minutes. While you're submitting your questions, I will just share the support that Animal Care are able to provide you in your practice following the launch of ProCanicare. And I'm very pleased to announce that all live attendees today can claim a free 30-gram pot of ProCanicare, which is worth just under £30. Information on how to claim your free pot will be included in your follow-up email, which you should receive later today. We have also created a suite of social media materials for you to use to promote gut health with your clients. I've included a few examples of these on the screen. You can download these materials for free at the Practice Assistance Centre, which I talked through at the start of the presentation. There is also a how-to guide to get you started with using this social media material, so you should find that guide really useful. Maybe less useful at the moment, we have also created a waiting room display pack to create a bit of theatre and help educate your clients when they're in the waiting room. Appreciate this might be a little bit difficult at the moment. However, as things start to get back to some form of normality, hopefully you will find these of benefit. We also have an additional webinar, the gastrointestinal microbiome and its effects. You can find a link to this webinar on the pack. I recommend taking the time to watch it. It's only 20 minutes long, and you can also download a webinar notes pack, which you should find really helpful. Before we just take a look at your questions, I just wanted to let you know that Procanica is available from UK veterinary wholesalers. So if you would like further information, or if you have a question you would prefer that we answer offline, then please email info@procanicare.com. Okay, should we take a look and see if there are any questions? Okay, so we have a question here. Is it useful in dogs with pancreatic disorders such as EPI?
There is no studies done on this subject, but we do know that lactic acid bacteria generally do help with animals overall suffering from metabolizing diseases. So yes, you could give it a try.
Okay, great, thank you, Shea, and thank you for that question. If you do have anyone else does have any questions, then please send them through. While we're waiting for any final questions, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, that the Procanicare product should ideally be kept in a refrigerator. It has a shelf life of 24 months when kept between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. It can be kept ambient. However, this does reduce the shelf life to 6 months as long as the product is unopened and kept between 0 and 25 degrees Celsius. After opening the product, the shelf life reduces to 3 months. Again, please ensure the product is kept between 0 and 25 degrees Celsius. And then our tips are best to keep it in cold storage, but not to be frozen, and to close the jar immediately after use. And it looks like we do have another question. So the question is, how different are canine microbiota from feline microbiota?
Quite different. There are a lot of studies done on cats, dogs, and horses, and of course humans and mice. The cat, as the cat feeding differs from what the dog feeding is and dog metabolism is, and there are differences in bacteria species and even more differences in bacteria strains. So in an ideal world, both of these animal groups should have their own probiotic, but as we tested, these Procanicare strains are not harmful for cats, as they are not harmful for any other animal. So in case you're thinking of giving Procanicare to a cat, I mean, you can do that.
Okay, I can't see any more questions. So I just wanted to let you know that we do have some more tea time training sessions coming up. So starting on the 1st of July, where we'll conduct a review of the physiology of pain and analgesia. 2 weeks later, we will focus on common sedatives and opioids used in practice. On the 29th of July, we will look at common agents used in anaesthesia and the perioperative period. And then we'll finish off on the Wednesday, the 12th of August, where the session will focus on using pain scale apps to monitor pain recognition in your patients. All of these sessions will start at 10:30 a.m. and are free to join. We'll send a link in the follow-up email from today so you can register. Thank you, Dr. Beasley, for sharing your time and expertise with us today. Really appreciated. And also thank you for everyone for taking the time out of your day to join us. We look forward to hopefully seeing you again for one of our upcoming tea time training sessions. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day.